And we're live. Hi, I'm Shan. I am the founder of gemsquash.ai, and we help small, medium-sized businesses create value. This video is to run you through a really cool tool that I created for one of our clients to help them prepare for fundraising conversations. One of the most important processes in any business's growth cycle is fundraising. And today I'm going to walk you through how I built a tool with no coding experience to help our client draft their initial business plan by conducting a thorough market analysis, looking at the business from the outside. This is part of a wider series called the Fundraising Formula, where we guide business owners on how to prepare a business plan, develop their financial operating model, and draft a pitch deck ready for investor conversations. This tool is an additional bonus or a plug-in to that because it helps businesses draft their business summary and their market positioning. So if you're interested only in getting the output of that, then there is a link to the tool directly below. So all you have to do is plug in your web address and that of your two primary competitors, and you'll be sent a full summarization of the research. If you are interested in understanding how I built the tool, then stay tuned because I'm going to take you through step by step how I constructed this in make.com. And if you want access to any of the scripts that I used or to the make.com scenario itself, please just drop me an email. My email's below and I'll be more than happy to share it with you. To make your scenario flow from start to end, you're going to need 5 things. You're going to need a make.com account, which you can sign up for free. You need some sort of trigger that is going to start off your flow, and this is going to form your webhook. I used Jotforms, but you can use Google Forms. I just think Jotforms looks a little bit more professional, and I'm still on the free plan. You get 100 form submissions a month, which is still fine for me. You need a Perplexity and a ChatGPT API key. Both of these are paid. However, it's a nominal amount. Most of these open LLMs, you just need a bit of credit, and it allows you to create an API key. I think Perplexity was $7, and I think OpenAI does have a upgrade kind of subscription basis to use its developer platform, but it's not that expensive. And then you just need a output destination. So I used Google Sheets in this example just because I feel like it's the easiest way that most people will have it freely available to them. So those 5 things need to be set up. You can set them up as you go, but you're not going to be able to get an end-to-end start to flow output without them. And now I'm going to build this with you. So you can use this as an exact step-by-step tutorial to create this full workflow and make sure that you're not making all the errors that I made when I tried to piece it together for the first time. The most important aspects to note is that each one of these steps needs something from the previous step in order for it to flow correctly. That'll make more sense as we go through. Also, just to note, I'm not going to go into detail with how I write the prompts because that would take too long. But as I said, if you want the prompts, just email me. So this is make.com. Make.com is a really cool no-code or very low-code solution to people that want to create automations that don't have coding experience. You can sign up for free. I've put the instructions below, but what Make tries to do is it allows you to drag and drop to create scenarios for end-to-end workflows. So what you would do here is you would create a new scenario. This is part of my series, the Fundraising Formula. This is not the editing screen, but it shows you all the different times that your scenario has been run. And so you can see the most recent scenario run was 2 days ago. I was playing around a little bit with it here, so I had a bunch of errors, and then finally I fixed it. And so great success. If I want to edit it, I'm going to click into my flow. Sorry, I can see this is a bit out. I'm just going to use this cool auto align just to fix that. And now you can see it's all beautiful. Actually, let's first start off with an example so you can see what it is that we're doing here before we dive into it. So the first step has to be initiated by something. In this case, it's going to be the submission of this form. So this is a really simple form that you can use if you want to get an output of this tool. It's all free and paid for. So I'm going to now use a use case here, and I'm going to say, okay, I want to apply, putting in my name. I'm going to put my email address, Shan at gemsquash.ai. And I'm going to use a business case that I've already done for a friend. I helped them develop their business plan and their operating model. And so they're kind of my case study in all of this. It's actually a school that's based in Dubai, and it's called Wisdom Warehouse. So now it asks for 3 web addresses. This is obviously essential to inform the research aspect. And so first one is going to be Wisdom Warehouse itself. So I'm going to go and copy their web address. Then we've got their first competitor and their second competitor. That is all. That is the only information. AI and all of its magic is going to do the rest. Submit that. That's going to send through a submission. And now, if you come back here, what you're going to see, so my scenario is currently active. The toggle has been switched on, and it's going to wait for data to arrive. As soon as data arrives, it will trigger the workflow. So sometimes it does need a little bit of a refresh. So I might just go out, let's just save changes there, come back in, and you can see we now have our latest version of the scenario. This was triggered, Jotform watched for its submission, it then successfully completed each of the steps, and we've got a final output. So if we now want to review how this happened, we can go and click into each of these little speech bubbles and look at what is happening at each of these steps. So this is our webhook. This is what initiates or triggers the entire flow. All that happens here is that Make waits until Jotform receives a new submission. And so if we look here, the output of this, we can see that there's a whole bunch of information here, but you really want to go down to the request and see that the form that we just submitted has the same information. So now that we know we're dealing with the same thing, we're going to send this through to our Perplexity step. So we have 2 steps here that we're using Perplexity for. We're going to conduct both research on the company itself, and we're going to conduct research on the market that it operates in. Why do we use Perplexity and not just GPT for this step? It's because Perplexity is far superior in its market research abilities. It also offers the citations, so you can trace back where it sourced certain information from. And it's also able to access company websites and download all the information on their website live, which is not something that GPT is currently able to do. So in this case, it was obviously, if that's the only information that we have available on the website, it's obviously very important to include these steps. So if you go and look in the speech bubbles here, you can see that whatever prompts we've put in here, what is currently happening, there's always an input and an output for these. The input is going to be the prompt that you've provided it. And so if you open up here, you can see this is the prompt, which I'll take everyone through now. And then the output, it's going to show you your usage, which is your tokens, the citations, so what web addresses it used, and the sources that it used to conduct the research. And then the results are going to be, if you look, here's the final message is going to be an output of the research itself in Markdown formatting. So we do 2 rounds of this. Like I said, all that really changes here is the prompt, because one, we want to look at the company, the other, we want to focus on competitors in the market. And then we send all of that information through to GPT, which again is going to use a input based on the prompt that we've given it, which is quite extensive, and it's going to format that into a business plan. Remember that this script that I've input into ChatGPT to inform the type of output I want was specifically designed to go into a business plan. And that's why it's been structured in the form of what you would see a traditional business plan as: business overview, markets opportunity or competitive analysis, and then I've left this placeholders for financial opportunity and whatever the investment ask is. If this is not something that you are wanting to be output in this way, so you're rather doing you want more targeted market research about a specific aspect of the business, or you're really looking at it at a more unique angle, then you are going to have to create a prompt that aligns with that and generates the output that you're looking for. We can do a whole section on prompt alchemy and how I went about designing the prompt that generated this output. But that will be a little bit too extensive for this video. So I will create one soon that goes into the science behind your prompt engineering. So however you want the output, however you want GPT to take this data and format an output is going to go into your prompt. And so I am going to give you a run through of how I developed this prompt. And then we've got Google Docs over here, which is just, now that we've got this output, to be able to export it. In this case, I just wanted to save it first to a basic Google Doc. And then in order to email this to the person that asked for it, I had to download that document, because now that it's in document form, save it as a PDF, and then attach it to an email. So that is now the flow. That's the example. And you can see what would have happened here is that I would have received the super basic email. I need to edit it, the output. But more importantly, this is now the business plan. So you can see it's taken all the information that it's taken from the website, and it's already gone and formatted and said, well, these are the key streams that we can see that the business offers. All that's left for you to do is go and plug in what each portion makes up in revenue. It's looked at kind of its growth efforts, what opportunity exists in the market, and also obviously looked at its competitors, and looked based on that what it thinks some of the business's key competitive advantages are. So you can see that while obviously not all of this is going to be exactly in the tone that the business would have drafted it, it's a great starting point to just go and also refer back to when you want to start fleshing out and creating a business plan. So with that now said, and you can see what it is that we're trying to do here, I'm going to take you through a little bit more detail how we've actually created this flow. So like I said, the first thing that you have to do is you need some sort of trigger event in any flow. So first step would actually be setting up a make.com account. Second step, creating a new scenario. And now this jot form submission. So there's a whole bunch of ways. What you would do is you would right click, you would say add a module. And there's a whole bunch of ways that you can create a webhook. You can do a custom webhook. If you were to create the webhook from scratch, you would choose create a webhook. You would name it something, click save, and that would then give you this custom URL, which you would copy to whatever partner application it is that you're trying to call your webhook from. In this case, we have, in most cases, if you're using kind of all of these online platforms, there will already be an integration. If you are using, let's say, Google Forms, there's already an API integration there, and then you could click on that and you could say, okay, we want to watch for a response. So this will trigger when a new response is received. That already creates your webhook. JotForms, which is what I use, also has a kind of ready configured webhook. So you can just select this get form submission. So that's how you would set up a new webhook. Now going on to the next step, so Perplexity. So you can see that I have an API connection here, a Perplexity connection. It's really, you wouldn't be able to run this without an API key. So I have put the instructions below on how you can establish one. It isn't that expensive to get it up and running. I think you need to upload a credit of $5 to $10, and that should last you a while. We've used the Sonar Pro model, which is really good for research. And now, probably the most important aspect. So this is now, the content is going to be the prompt. This, from the make scenario, is what it's going to ask Perplexity to do. And so in this case, I've said, please research and analyze the company identified via website. Your research should cover the overview, market positioning, their management team, business model, content and branding, etc. Please compile this information into a detailed summary. And then I've given it just a little bit of background into what it's going to be used for. And that it's going to be for business data. A business plan. Probably the most important aspect of this is this orange bit here, which is that, and this is something that took me a while to learn, but is super important, is that every single step needs something from one of the previous steps to be able to flow. And this identifier here is what does that. So you can see when I hover over this, that my JotForm guy is breathing in and out there. That is what the information that is now being pulled from our first step in our webhook. So because we're conducting market research, or we're conducting research about the business now, what we want Perplexity to refer to is the business web address. And so what we would go and do, and you can see, I'm just going to show you now, say, please research and analyze company identified by a website. And I've now just put in stars. And let's go, if we go and scroll down, I want to go and select where I want it to refer to. I want it to refer to Wisdom Warehouse's web address. And so I'm just going to click that. And then now it knows that that's what it needs to refer to. Role is going to be user, and I'm just going to save that. Market research step is going to be very similar. We've got our API that's now connecting. This will only pop up below once you have this API key established. So make sure that you do get this connection before you start going and trying to input your prompt. And now we're going to ask it to come at this from a slightly different angle. We still want research to be conducted in the frame of the business that we are busy researching. And so first thing I'm telling it is that we're still researching and analyzing the industry of this company, and we're trying to use this using all sorts of sources. And therefore, please go and look at the company's website, but also outlets, industry reports, financial analysis, anything that they can find, as well as the websites of its two main competitors. And again, you can see if we click on this, all I've done there is I've gone and I've selected, this is our competitor's web address, and that's therefore pulling information from our first step. And then again, given it broad range of overview of things to cover. So like the company overview, the industry performance, the market reputation, the market competitiveness, what the public perception is, things like that. And in doing all of that, now save, and it's going to submit all that research now to OpenAI. I want to create a chat completion because I want it to use GPT and give me a sort of more human verbal output. The model that I'm going to use is the O1 Mini. Why I'm not using O4 is because O1 is much better at reasoning. So O1 is GPT's reasoning model. What I'm asking it to do is something quite complex. I'm asking it to take financial data, market research from all different sources. I'm asking it to format it and also use its own reasoning in trying to structure an output and look at competitive advantages in relation to the market. So there's a lot of complex reasoning that's required here. And so while the O1 might be slower than ChatGPT 4 or GPT-4, in this case, it's more appropriate for our purposes. Your role is always going to be user. And then in the text portion here, I'm going to put the content. Quick run through of the prompt. We're pretty much giving it a role in a saying, explaining what we're doing. We then give the main task, which has our key bits of information from our previous step, and saying, okay, we want to draft a template business plan for this business and complete as much of it as possible using market research. Here's the company research, here's the market research, and now we want to create a business plan with the title Business Plan For, and then we're going to bring through the information of the company. We wanted to name that, and then we wanted to give us the following outputs: a company overview, the business model, market opportunity, competitive analysis, financial opportunity, and investment strategy. Asking for it to leave placeholders so that it's really easy to input information. Give it a few more prompts that help improve its accuracy. Also an important thing, as I said, I wanted to refer to economic theories. And then we explain why it's doing this, which is proven again to improve prompt accuracy or output accuracy. And then I give it a very detailed example. So in the case of what we're doing here, if we don't give it an example, it's not going to give us a standard enough output. And so I've gone and I really kind of scripted the output. It does take some license in changing it, but overall, in all of the ones I've looked at, 80% of them are probably similar, but it's good because it's hitting all the key areas that we would like to be included in a business model. And so I've done all of that in order to kind of have a bit more control about the output. And then lastly, we just have, as we end any prompt, a few more notes, which are usually as I'm going and reviewing the outputs and it's done something maybe I don't like, or I wanted to do something it hasn't done. You add that kind of the end as at notes. Now I've put we've put max tokens here at about 2,000. That might be a little bit high, but when I was playing around, I didn't want tokens to limit me. So we've pretty much put our max complete tokens that are allowed here. But I think anything from like 1,000 to 1.5 should actually be okay. Especially seeing that we've limited our token count in our Perplexity to 500. So if we think about it, if we have, let's say, 500, we have about 1,000 plus whatever chat does, then we should be okay with under 1.5. That's kind of how tokens work. I'm actually not an expert, but more or less basic maths. That's what you have to be aware of. Just note, I haven't touched temperature. I've left it at 0.3. That's about industry standard. Temperature is effectively how creative you want the bots to get in the outputs. When we're doing market research, obviously not very creative. So you can see on a sliding scale of 0 to 2, we've only put 0.3. And I don't think they ask us here. No. That you can adjust the temperature settings in your OpenAI account itself. And that finally gets us to what is now a much simpler step, but that's all we're going to do now is connect this. Again, you have to kind of create the connection to Google, which you can do for free. So as long as you have a Google account, you can do that. I want it to be called Business Plan Research - whatever the business name was. The content I want to now pull from the results of OpenAI. So you can see here's my results, and that's what I want to now be input in the content. I'm going to choose a location for it, and it's going to automatically save a copy there. Now, in order for it to email an attachment, there was an extra step required, which was that that we need to download the document. So all we're doing now is we're saying this document ID is what comes from the previous step, and we're now just creating a PDF out of it, and you can create it or change it into whatever format you want. And now when we finally get to an email step, we're going to connect it to whatever email address or server you want to send it from. I don't want to save the message after sending, or else if there's lots of applications here, my email box is just going to get flooded. So I just want to send it. I'm going to send it to that initial email. We go right back to the first trigger, the initial email that was provided here. Again, make the subject whatever the business plan or the business name was, business plan summary, and then make the content type HTML, which normally keeps the formatting, even though it doesn't seem to be doing so now, reviewing the email output, and then it will add as an attachment the file, which we've now located in Google Docs. And document ID is going to be whatever the document ID that was created here in our PDF step. And so if we now save that, that's what's now, we'll send our final output and send it to you if you choose to use it. And so that is all for this tutorial. Get playing around with this. It's a super valuable and powerful tool. It's worked really well for me so far, and I'm looking forward to seeing if this actually helps anybody. Cheers, guys.